Right everyone, we're keeping the focus on the European scene today. There is plenty of time to look ahead to Dundee. We will do that on tomorrow's video, but for today, we're going to look back at last night, focusing in on some of your comments from the live stream, even the nasty ones. Ange's comments, obviously after the game, what he had to say, the overall Group G picture, what Celtic need to do to end up in the various positions in the group, and fourth is no longer an option, and what our knockout tie in February could look like, whether that be in the Europa League or the wonderful Conference League. But first of all, as promised, some of your comments from last night's live stream. Now, some of these comments are thought-provoking, some are funny. Yeah, occasionally you guys and girls can actually be quite funny. Some are cruel to this wonderful man you see before you, mainly when they say I look like certain people, but we'll get on to all of that. Let's start with Summit today. He or she is saying we just need a plan for beating anti-footballing teams like Livingston. They're aiming for 30 points per season. It's rare we play clubs like that, but when we're in a dogfight, I trust us to score more than the opposition, especially once our centre-backs get sorted. I think if this Celtic team manages to master the art of defending, we will be unbeatable because we're just frightening going forward. I thought the control we had in the game last night was really good, and 3-2 wasn't a fair reflection on that match last night, given the chances we had, the dominance we had, and I've not seen the possession stats, but I would assume we had more of the possession, more passes, more territory in the match, and it's really a game we should have won by more goals. Part of that is maybe missing a few chances and also maybe gifting at least one goal last night. So if the team can improve that, we are going to be one hell of a side if we're not already. Lupe 33, near Beaton, best game this season. First thing I would say is there's probably not a great deal of competition for other standout Beaton performances. Pataudry was pretty good. I thought Beaton was excellent last night. Really, really good. Did exactly what you want him to do, what you want any holding midfielder to do for Celtic away from home in Europe. Broke up the play, moved the ball well, was really careful in possession, took real good care of the ball, and I think we might have found Beaton's role. He's not a centre-back anymore. I know he went there on Saturday when Starfelt got his injury. Let me rephrase that. He's not a centre-back in European competition anymore. I think it's fine at home to Livingston because you're not really having much defending to do. But games last night, he's a defensive midfielder / central midfielder, and I thought he was absolutely excellent last night. We'll come on to his injury stuff in a wee second, but it's good news. And yeah, Near Beaton is back to being one of the best centre mids in Celtic history. So let's go to the next comment. Mark McMinimy. Shut it, Hamish. Christ. Too good for Celtic. What kind of fan are you? I believe this is in response to my comment that Jota is too good for Celtic. I probably worded it wrong. I mean, clearly Mark's taking offence to it. I think there was another guy as well. I just think Jota is an incredible talent. Maybe what I should have said is we are very fortunate to have a player like Jota at Celtic. So hopefully that's cheered you up, Mark. Rabbi Burns thought it was Turnbull and Big Ange there in reference to me and John last night. I'm not having that. Just not having it at all. Rob Mitchell, Hamish looks like a grown-up Kevin from Home Alone. Yous need to improve your lookalikes, fellas. I mean, I'm all for a bit of patter, but it needs to have a bit of kind of something about it. I mean, a grown-up Kevin from Home Alone, basically just Macaulay Culkin then. Moving on, 67 Lions of Lisbon, great win, an away win versus European opposition. Give Ange a couple of transfer windows and his Celtic side will be some team. I feel as if the debate has moved on from Ange being a success or a failure at Celtic to how good this Celtic team can be under Ange. I think people now have enough evidence that Ange knows what he's doing and this team is 100% buying into what he's trying to do, and it's now all just about how good this Celtic team can be and how quickly we can get to that pinnacle I spoke about on last night's video, I think we're still so far away from reaching that pinnacle. Miles away when you consider the players we've still got to bring into the club, the depth we still need to add, the fact that defence can still improve so much and will improve so much. But it's going to be such a good journey. I'm already enjoying this journey. I'm sure everyone else is watching this, and there's just so much more of it to come. So many more nights like last night, hopefully against even better European opposition to come. Brian O'Neill raising the next point. Pressure's off, gents. We can really go for it in the last 2 matches. We played really well and pressed up the park. There is always pressure at Celtic, and I think if we're going into the last match day and need 3 points against Betis to make it to the next round of the Europa League, there's no one at Celtic Park is going to feel like the pressure is off. But I totally get Brian's point. We have secured European football, at the very least Conference League football in February, and I think that's a pretty decent achievement. It's not a mega achievement by Celtic standards, but it's a tick the box, well done. And to an extent now we can just go in the last couple of games and see what happens, and if we qualify for the Europa League, amazing. If it falls flat in its face, then at least we still have European football in February. It's kind of win-win at the moment. Rick LaRock, that's what I'm going with. Kyogo, Jota, Kalmak, Juranovic, Ralston and Carter Vickers are Premier League quality. Should look to strengthen the other positions. Jota and Ralston worked hard in attack and defence. I just think we have a lot of really good players. I think the business we've done in the summer right now looks really, really good. Kyogo, Jota are obviously the standouts. I would add Joe Hart. Joe Hart is 100% Premier League quality. He showed that throughout his career. Juranovic, I absolutely love. I just think he's brilliant, and he's not even playing in his number one position at the moment. I think he's going to turn out to be an absolute star for Celtic. And players, Carter Vickers, another really good one. Ralston's coming on to a game. It's looking good. You might have got that vibe from this video already. And finally, Dave O'Boy, 1967, he is picking out Joe Hart. Joe Hart rushing out, screaming at the defence was class standards. We didn't touch on that last night. He actually did it 2 or 3 times last night. I think a couple of times certainly in the second half, most notably after the goal. Another time when I think a shot just fizzed over the bar. Just great to see that he's kind of reached that point at Celtic where he feels comfortable enough to really roar at players. It shows that he's really confident, and it shows that he's really feeling secure in his role at Celtic at the moment. When he first came in, he was maybe getting that confidence back. I certainly feel like Joe Hart has got that confidence back now, and is showing all the qualities that we know he had somewhere. I think he's just been an amazing signing, Joe Hart, and I'm absolutely loving him. I'm also loving Ange, and let's hear what the wonderful Aussie had to say after the match. Now, Ange didn't think that 3-2 was a fair reflection on the game. I think a lot of people would agree with that. Celtic were more than 1 goal better than Ferencvaros in terms of the way they played last night. Ange did praise the attackers for their defensive work. He said that if they do that ugly side of the game, they will always get the rewards for that, and they certainly did last night, with all 3 of them getting on the score sheet. Scoring 3 goals away, Ange says that's down to the fact that we go at teams, and he still thinks that's the best way for Celtic to play, the way the fans want to see Celtic play. He also gave some good news over Nir Beaton and Stephen Welsh. Nir Beaton's knock was just cramp, according to Ange, and Stephen Welsh is, quote, hopefully nothing serious. Obviously, he'll have given another update today in his pre-Dundee press conference. We'll cover all of that tomorrow, when I'll also pick my team for Dundee. Final thing I wanted to mention about last night before we kind of move on to the overall Europa League picture. The fans, amazing backing. I don't know how many went over. Certainly thousands, I would say, went over to Hungary. Didn't even have tickets for the match. I know some Celtic fans got in somehow. They always find a way. But in general, Celtic didn't have an official allocation, and we still had thousands of fans turning up in Budapest. And here's me thinking that it's only English teams that bring big travelling away supports in Europe, eh? Okay, the true situation with the group. This is how it looks. Certainly better than it did a couple of match days ago. Now, we're still up against it, if we're honest. The bad news, first of all, is that on match day 5, if we lose away to Leverkusen, let's face it, they're a good side. That is very possible. No shame in that. And Betis beat Ferencvaros, again, very, very possible. We will be out of the Europa League. However, if any of those two results don't happen, so basically if either Celtic or Ferencvaros avoid defeat on match day 5, then we will have the chance on match day 6 to beat Betis and topple them, finish ahead of them in the Europa League and take second spot. So again, that's very possible. Another thing I wanted to mention, Leverkusen do travel to RB Leipzig 72 hours after they host us. Now, given they're already looking good for qualification, given that their last game is against Ferencvaros, and I think if I'm right, they only need to win one of their last two to qualify, then perhaps they'll rest some players for that game against us. Maybe I'm clutching at straws, but I'd certainly take it with that Leipzig game, a big Champions League kind of qualification clash for them a couple of days later, one to keep an eye on. I also wouldn't write Ferencvaros off from maybe getting one result in this group stage. Now, they have been pretty close in quite a few games. I don't think they're a great side, but they haven't been hammered in any match in this group stage so far. I think they had late goals in the Betis game. I think Leverkusen only beat them by a single goal. We obviously only beat them by a single goal last night. So they've not been hammered in any game. And also, a pretty incredible stat that worked out earlier. No team in one of Celtic's European groups has ever finished with 0 points from 6 games. Ever. So if history is going to repeat itself, Ferencvaros will earn at least 1 point. Ideally, that will come against Betis, and it will set up our game against Betis on match day 6. So we're guaranteed European football at the start of 2022. What kind of team could we face? Let's just give you an overview briefly that if Celtic win the group, yes, very unlikely, I will admit, but if it happens, we'd be straight into the Europa League last 16. If we finish second in the group, we'll also enter the Europa League, but at a round earlier than the last 16, where we'd face off with one of the 8 teams dropping down from the UEFA Champions League. Now, at the moment, as things stand, those 8 teams are Club Brugge, Atletico Madrid, Sporting Lisbon, Sheriff, Benfica, Atalanta, Wolfsburg and Zenit. If we finish third in our Europa League group, we will drop in to the newly formed Conference League. And again, that will be at a round earlier to the last 16. In that competition, we would play one of the 8 teams who finished second in their Conference League group. Are you following this? Those teams at the moment, as things stand, are Lask, Partizan Belgrade, AS Roma, Jablonec, Slavia Prague, Slovan Bratislava, Spurs and Basel. So there's still some pretty tough teams in there. Obviously, that can and will change in the last 2 match days of all the competitions, but it just gives you a wee insight into the level of teams we could be facing now that we have guaranteed European football at the start of 2022. Loads of people with different views on what competition they'd like to be in, whether it be, the Europa League, the Conference League, what one gives us the best chance of a run, what one gives us the best chance of winning the league. I think no matter your opinion, it's just kind of win-win at the moment. Celtic aren't going to finish bottom of the group. We're going to have at least one tie at the start of 2022, and I think that's very positive. I think having a tie at the start of February really adds something to kind of the winter months. It just gives you something to look forward to and just keeps things motoring on. It adds an extra layer to Celtic's season, and it's good, of course. That's the European stuff over for now. Tomorrow, we will turn attention to the big game against Dundee. Obviously, 3 points, a must for Celtic, given that we dropped points against Livy last week. And with it being the final game before, grown another international break, it's a pretty big one. We will focus on that tomorrow. Speak to you then.